If you have come across animations led by a character called Patchman discussing ideas such as how crystals are alive or plants responding to human thoughts, you may be familiar with the content from Spirit Science.
What we're going to be looking at today is the pattern of creation. Essentially what this means is that everything in the universe comes out of this single pattern. I'm not making this up. This single image will change everything.
The founder of Spirit Science is Jordan Rivers. So Jordan grew up with a passion for animation. When he was 13, he discovered Adobe Flash and started uploading his cartoons to the internet. For several years, Jordan uploaded his content to a site called Newgrounds. So on April the 11th, 2011, the first episode of Spirit Science called Thoughts was released. This episode was based on the books The Secret and The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. The essential lesson in this episode, according to Jordan, was that your thoughts and feelings create your reality. So Jordan wasn't raised on any specific religion, which likely contributes to his focus on having an open mind and exploring all possibilities. A common idea Jordan reiterates is how everything is connected and we are all one consciousness. Spirit Science explores different spiritual traditions, ideologies, philosophies, religions, and conveys this idea that they are all connected. There's a certain level of child-friendliness to Jordan's channel due to the animation style of Spirit Science. It makes the information a lot easier to understand, allowing Jordan to, reach a wider audience. Patchman is the main character on Spirit Science, and his character is who Jordan communicates his content through. So Spirit Science has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And Jordan doesn't claim that Spirit Science represents factual information, rather it represents the exploration of ideas. However, many of his videos present ideas which are communicated as fact, hence the rise of debunking videos looking at his content which misleads viewers or misinterprets science. I personally think exploring different ideas, perspectives, learning about different religions can be a good thing. But when those ideas are put together in a video, presented in an educational manner, and it is impressionable because there's a large audience who is likely a vulnerable audience too, where their beliefs and thoughts can be greatly impacted, it's no longer just an exploration of ideas. A lot of Spirit Science's older videos have the Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life book as the video source. Jordan has acknowledged that this book has inspired a lot of his content. So Jordan does talk about God on his channel and this idea of embodying the Spirit of Christ, and therefore it can come across confusing as to whether he follows a religion or not. So for Jordan, from what I understand from listening to a podcast he was featured on, the gods are just a reflection of the interconnectedness he talks about and the oneness of everything. Jordan's quite open about his experiences with ayahuasca, in particular at a place called Rhythmia. The first ayahuasca experience he went to, he allegedly had the intention to embody the Spirit of Christ, and at the end of his experience he saw a being of light, or Jesus, come over his body and put a hand on his heart. The Rhythmia is a retreat center for plant medicine which includes ayahuasca ceremonies. Jordan mentions Rhythmia often on his channel, and likely because he feels he was significantly impacted by his experiences at Rhythmia. Rhythmia is one of the partners of Spirit Science, so that could be another reason why Jordan talks about them a lot. In a video where he talks about a psychic attack, Rhythmia is in the bio of the vid with a link to their website. It comes across as more of a subtle advertisement for Rhythmia. At one ayahuasca ceremony, Jordan saw the word Spirit Mysteries. So Jordan wrote a book called The Book of Spirit, where he talked about mystery schools. With the desire to create a community around Spirit Science, Jordan then created Spirit Mysteries. So on the Spiritverse app or website, there's something called Spirit Mysteries, and then there's also 2 other products. So first, it says, welcome. Involve your consciousness with Spiritverse, a community and network for self-realization and personal transformation. Spiritverse has 3 areas to it: Spirit Science, Spirit Academy, and Spirit Mysteries. With a community chat, network feed, courses, and other spiritual practices for every aspect of life, you can find here a healthy community on the journey of self-realization. You get organized access to content. If you regularly watch spirit science videos and you really love their content, this might be the next step to feeling like you are connecting with other people who also watch spirit science content. I don't think there's anything wrong with creating a community around shared interests. Then we have spirit mysteries. I'm not sure how someone can still charge you to activate your light body. If someone had figured out how to do this, I think scientists would be talking more about it, in my opinion. Again, this sentence here, it says, before the fall of consciousness, human consciousness was multidimensional. This comes across as it's stated like a fact, instead of saying it is possible that before the fall of consciousness, or in my opinion. Then it says, this does not mean we do not have physical bodies, but that our consciousness expanded through many levels of being. We are telepathic, could levitate our bodies and use the force, like in Star Wars. The community probably is going to have more of an effect on feeling good. You know, if you're sharing something you're passionate about with other people and you're connecting with others, that's going to probably, make people feel like they've gotten something from this, and they're going to feel likely, more excited and things, and interested and inspired, which might make them think that they've, raised their vibrations. And again, I think that creating a community space is great, and I'm sure that this would have a positive impact on people. However, I also do think it would create an echo chamber, which isn't particularly great in this case, where there's a lot of misinformation and, not great interpretations of science going around. So they also have testimonials as, I guess, their evidence for how good these programs are. And it seems to be like a common theme, just from listening to a few of them, that people are looking to expand their awareness, level of consciousness, and, these are common ideas which attract people to this kind of thinking in general, and makes sense that it would attract people to this course. So if we have a look at the Spirit Mysteries site, you've got the Spirit Mysteries membership, where you discover, learn the mystic teachings left out of the mainstream, connect, share your experiences with a community that cares, and transform, reach your highest potential and experience miracles. So there's weekly events that support your evolution. So again, this idea of, growing and learning, and then other activities such as community breathwork, guided meditations. So here are all the different types of courses. Again, you've got the Activate Your Life Body, the 7-day transformation. I'm not really sure how someone can transform in 7 days. That's a very short timeline to transform yourself. But anyways, the 12D Shield experience, a powerful guided meditation designed to clear your energetic field of psychic attacks, energy vampires, and other auroric manipulations, will provide a continued auroric protection for a time after. I mean, I understand that meditation can be quite a powerful practice, but to say that it fights off psychic attacks, energy vampires, is quite a large claim to make. And there's lots of other courses. There's a workshop from Rhythmia on here under the Evolution of Humanity. There's a money mindset challenge. Most of the time, spiritual courses have some level of personal growth attached to them, and usually there's a money aspect to it as well, because it kind of goes with the whole idea of manifesting your own reality. $57 per month, I'm assuming that's in USD, and then an annual membership of nearly $500 a year. And again, 7 days just seems like a really short time to see significant transformation. You can, I guess, start working towards a new goal, or you might have 7 days of consistently developing a habit. But to call it a transformation, I feel like is a bit of a stretch. People might feel transformed though, because they're taking on a lot of new information. They feel like they might have a completely new outlook on life, on the world, thus feel transformed. Realistically, their brain is just filled with more misinformation, pseudoscience, and new age ideas, in my opinion. But obviously, if they also are in a situation where maybe they've just left a previous religion, or they're just in a very vulnerable time in their lives. You know, they don't have that sense of community around them. They don't have anything they're super passionate about. There's no content that they're consuming that's really inspirational to them. And then suddenly that's delivered in a package, and, you know, they join Spirit Mysteries, and then in a few days they've got a community, they've got inspirational content, they've got a new outlook on life. They are likely going to feel transformed, even if the external reality hasn't changed much, I guess, on some level, like their mindset is going to feel changed. There's a lot of people in the testimonials saying that they were in a real dark place. So again, that makes these programs and even the Spirit Science YouTube channel really attractive if you were either in a dark place or just interested in the content. And again, there's nothing wrong with the community, but I think it does show how much the content can have an impact on the way people think, that people can watch a video and take what it is as fact or a likely scenario, because when you are in a more darker place, you know, you're more vulnerable to believing new ideas or the content from Spirit Science, simply because of the positivity suggested that comes from joining the community. It's kind of a combination of needing something special or fulfillment in your life, needing meaning, or again, the community with someone, in this case, Patchman character, as a guide, combined with the content you find interesting, or if someone would like to believe that these kind of ideas are true. It's a recipe for positive change or feeling like you've engaged in a life-changing experience. But I do think it's dangerous to find meaning around ideas which are false or misleading, and again, it kind of creates that echo chamber. So as previously mentioned, the Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life book is mentioned often in Spirit Science. It is particularly mentioned in videos relating to sacred geometry, which mention the Flower of Life, or the book, The Ancient Flower of Life, as where everything essentially comes from. So sacred geometry is the belief that fundamental properties of the universe can be quantified into simple shapes and patterns. At the core, it is a grid which has overlapping circles, known as the Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. Both the book, The Ancient Secret Flower of Life, and the sacred geometry concept have faced criticisms. There's this blog post which looks at the mathematical errors of The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. I'm not a mathematician, so I cannot comment much on the content of the book, but one of the key ideas in this post is how The Ancient Secret, the Flower of Life, talks about sacred geometry, but just simply the geometry is not real geometry. Personally, I find it strange also that so much information of a vast number of spiritual topics is derived from one book. It doesn't seem very scientific to rely on one guy's writings as evidence for a lot of scientific claims. So in Spirit Science's Sacred Geometry movie, there is a disclaimer at the start of the video which says, "Don't believe or disbelieve anything we discuss in Spirit Science, simply have your own experience." These disclaimers are used to suggest videos like these are just an exploration of ideas, but that doesn't prevent the misrepresentation of information not being significant. So another post from the same author wrote criticisms of the Sacred Geometry movie. They also point out how this disclaimer, they basically say this is an attempt at justifying the mistakes the film will inevitably be making by pretending that the author is simply recounting his own experiences. However, the film makes claims about history, science, and mathematics, which are unequivocal factual errors. These are not matters of subjective experience. These can be rationally and objectively assessed. Allow me to propose better advice. Disbelieve anything we discussed until such time as we have sufficiently supported our claims with reasonable evidence. So then they also include a bit about sacred geometry, and they say, Spirit Science explains that sacred geometry is the geometry of consciousness. Of course, this is complete nonsense, especially when combined with his previous assertion that consciousness is non-physical. Geometry is a method of describing physical quantities and dimension. If something is not physical, it cannot be described using geometry. A new assertion is made here. All consciousness is solely based on sacred geometry. This, despite the fact that no geometry, sacred or otherwise, provides any mechanism for explaining consciousness. If you want to construct regular polyhedric, geometry will be indispensable. But if you want to describe the feeling of happiness you get from smelling a flower, Geometry has absolutely no explanatory power. Then there is a video on the Backster Effect. So Grover Cleveland Backster Jr. was known for his experiment with plants using a polygraph instrument in the 1960s. Backster claimed that plants feel pain and have extrasensory perception, but this claim has been rejected by the scientific community. Backster also reported on how human thought and emotions would cause a reaction in plants. In science, an experiment has to be able to be replicated and follow the scientific method. As his experiments couldn't be replicated and the scientific method was deemed to have not been followed, plus there was also a lack of control experiments, Baxter's claims cannot be perceived as reliable science. In the Spirit Science video, they suggest that if you go into an experiment with the intention to disprove the theory, then your thoughts will affect your outcome. Under this logic, every experiment which disproves Baxter's theory is going to be wrong because the scientist's thoughts are affecting the outcome. If they go into it having doubt, then the experiment's not going to work. On their questions and answers on their site, it says, is spirit science based on facts? In order to answer this question, we have to understand what a fact is better. You see, the modern definition of fact is a thing that is known or proven to be true. The definition of true is in accordance with fact or reality. Finally, reality is defined as the world or the state of things as they actually exist, as opposed to an idealistic or notional idea of them. This is important because often in society there are beliefs about reality and life that are assumed to be facts because they align with our understanding of the world at the time. However, as we discover greater truth, the old facts are shattered and new ones take over, even though before those discoveries, those facts were impenetrable. Under this logic, basically saying that we might have factual information out there currently, and in 30 years' time, 80 years' time, that will be disproved and we'll realize that it's wrong. And therefore, because that can happen, nothing can really be perceived as factual because things can change, right? That's what he's saying. This is where things like the Human History movie come to make sense under this logic, because by showing an alternative view of history, it's basically saying, we have historical information, but then as time goes on, we realize that based on new information, that there were things missing in history or things weren't what they seem. And therefore, some of these alternative ideas that spirit science represents, some of them could be true because we just haven't found the evidence yet. So he uses an example. He says, take for example the nature of thoughts. For thousands of years, it was fact in the mainstream that thoughts were isolated to the brain. It's only in the last several decades that there has been conclusive evidence and studies showing that in fact thoughts are not isolated to the brain but extend out beyond it much like a wave. And our thoughts connect with each other in a telepathic sort of way. This paradigm-shifting discovery changes how we perceive each other and life so much that many often choose to reject this fact because it's too much to handle. This is where one kind of starts to think, like, the content that's on spirit science, even though it's represented as exploration of ideas, does Jordan genuinely believe it? Does he believe everything that's in the ancient Flower of Life book? Because if this is how he's perceiving factual information, then he may just think that, there's some evidence for some things in the book and then there'll be more evidence in the future. So when you ask, is SS based on facts? I'd like to say yes. However, there's more to it than that because much of the mainstream has yet to accept some of the ideas that spirit science puts forth. So part of the reason why I guess you could say the videos come across as factual is because there is an intention there that is kind of suggesting that this information is factual, just the mainstream science hasn't caught up yet to accept the ideas, or the mainstream media hasn't yet. Further, sometimes we explore ideas about life that even we don't truly know about. The history series is a good example of this. We're doing our best to put together the ancient stories and alternative theories about who we are and where we came from. But these are just theories and ideas. We don't claim to have conclusive answers on the subject. Because of this, I would suggest that you take each episode with a grain of salt and take each video on its own as its own individual thing. Some episodes, such as episode 1 Thoughts, have a bit more conclusive evidence and research to back up the ideas, and others which might be a bit more theoretical or based on work that has been less taken by modern science, such as theories pertaining to the tree of life system, the chakras, or astrology. This doesn't mean that the ideas are invalid, just that they require personal exploration in order to truly understand them best and decide for yourself if they resonate and if you want to go deeper into the ideas. At the end of the day, we advocate for decide for yourself. Don't believe or disbelieve anything that we discuss in spirit science. Do your own research, explore the ideas, take what resonates, and leave the rest behind. So decide for yourself is subjective. Deciding whether or not I personally feel like something is true is subjective versus an objective fact. There is a difference. So in this case, what Jordan is describing, decide for yourself, is not a fact. I think it's quite a dangerous idea, this idea of just decide yourself if things are true, because if you go through all the different videos on spirit science basically saying, okay, watch the video and decide if it's true or not, yes, he's encouraging to do your own research, but there's a lot of ideas on there that are quite harmful to just go away and just believe that they're correct, and that because you believe they're correct, then that makes them a fact, whereas that is not what a fact is. The next question is, how can we trust the information that is being provided here? It says, ultimately, the only thing that you can trust is your own heart. So again, it's kind of the same thing that, you decide for yourself. You trust in yourself. Basically, it's completely subjective interpretation of the information being presented. Continues on to say, be aware that your own journey of personal discovery, there will be countless times when your perspective will change. One day you might believe one thing adamantly, and the next you no longer have that understanding because of your perspective changes. Be open to being flexible, to growing and evolving. Know that your heart will guide the way and that you can trust yourself to learn what you need. You will not go astray. With that said, I know it is difficult to trust others sometimes in the world because it's common for people to try and take advantage of one another in today's society. You might even be feeling that spirit science is trying to do the same in some way. Ultimately, you have to be the one to make that decision, but I can say that from my own experience and perspective, my intention with spirit science is to be an expression of my own truth, love, and authenticity. I will always strive for SS to be that reflection, and I would invite you to try and feel in your heart if that is true for you. So basically, if you trust Jordan or you feel that spirit science is true for you, then it's okay. You're on your own journey and your perspective might change. It's essentially this approach. It takes away sort of the pressure to really think critically about what you're consuming, because obviously it's like, oh, it doesn't really matter because if you are interpreting it to be true, it's okay and your perspective will change. It's not really causing the viewers to be like, oh, this information could be harmful, or I might need to look a bit deeper into this. So originally posted as Our History Is Not What You Think, and later as the Human History Movie, this is a movie on spirit science which supposedly represents an alternative view of history. If it's history, you would assume that a movie based on a completely alternative view of history, that it would have a lot of research. Well, this video has two. This Ancient Secret Flower of Life Volume 1 and The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life Volume 2. So in the video description, it says, what if our history was not what we thought? This special telling of our history explores a story which puts all of the pieces together from the mysteries explored in this first season of spirit science. It weaves together the mysterious advances of the ancient Greeks and Egyptians, the precession of the equinox, and the understanding of dimensions. What emerges is a story that one will never forget. If this story is true, it would seem that all of the struggles humanity is experiencing today are not coincidental or random, but are direct results of events which took place many thousand years ago. All of these mysteries are explained through this telling. The Spirit Science Human History Movie is often one of the first episodes ever seen by those on the awakening journey. It's an honor to share this final season with you now, this season finale with you now. The idea of awakening usually means that you have been like living under a rock, right? And you suddenly are exposed to all this information and outlook on life, and it completely flips your perception of reality. And now suddenly you know all this information that you didn't know before. That sort of is suggesting that this is the real truth, that what you previously knew about history is a lie, and that everything that is in this video is true. In my opinion, that's how it comes across. Even calling it history makes it seem more real. But I think the main point here is that there are a lot of facts which aren't factual. There's no reference to academic sources, and the ancient flower of life is not a credible source for something to be called history. Jordan would obviously look at this as that's okay because it's an alternative view of history, and there's not going to be any academic sources for this alternative view because modern science hasn't caught up with current information, so there's not going to be evidence to support this idea. But, 50 years down the track, 200 years down the track, there will be evidence to support this alternative view potentially. I think that's one way of describing how Jordan's logic would justify all of this, in my opinion. Also, to put the human history movie, to have the only source as the Ancient Flower of Life book, it kind of gives the impression that the book's being used like a biblical text, which I think is why some people might feel like Jordan has a religion, because he references the ancient secret of the Flower of Life so much. So I think spirit science is presented as this emergence between spirituality and science, but leans more heavily on the spirituality with a mix of pseudoscience and misinformation presented as fact. Lots of people could easily watch these videos, and if they don't know much about a subject, they could easily take this information as fact, and especially impressionable audiences, it's a concern when it comes to people who might be younger and they're still learning a lot about history, about science, or people who are in a darker place in their lives, or who have just left a religion and are looking for new ideas to shape their understanding of the world, or looking for some kind of community to bond over a new outlook or interest. Those who already consume a lot of New Age and spiritual ideas will find spirit science videos appealing and will only strengthen their beliefs. And these videos, because they give the impression that they are backed up by science and logic, it just reaffirms the idea that the concepts that they're consuming are true, because they're not looking more into where the studies came from or what the references in the videos are. And it is possible that spirit science will continue to grow, and Jordan may end up creating more in-person experiences, and who knows how many people will be influenced by spirit science ideas. Hopefully not too many. So in this video I mentioned the plant medicine facility Rhythmia. I looked into Rhythmia a bit more and found some not so positive things about it. Thought I'd make a video about that next, and that will be uploaded very soon. But otherwise, that's all I have to really say on this at the moment. Thanks for watching.